Lolita, incest, Asian, rape, facial, anal, threesome, group, bondage, mature, lesbian, webcam. There's a worldwide epidemic at hand, and that is the epidemic of pornography. Research from Canada shows that the average male will first view porn at age 10, while research from Australia shows that males will keep searching on porn and they'll look and look until they find something new, directly related to their arousal. This is a concern for men and women alike. For men, there's great psychological effects of pornography, while for women, pornography can be very degrading. I am here to talk to you today as a fellow student, a heterosexual male, a researcher of sexuality, and as an ex-porn watcher. I'm mainly going to focus on heterosexual pornography because this is where most of the research lies, and also this is the main aspect of the porn industry. I'm going to argue that culture is heavily pornified. There are many consequences to this. First, I will talk about erectile dysfunction. Second, I'll talk about how porn is degrading towards women. And third, I will talk about how it inherits and portrays shady behavior. But please, don't get up, because men are struggling to, which leads me to my first point, that pornography viewership can lead to erectile dysfunction in men. And this has to do with the psychological effects it can have on a young child's mind. So, taking our generation of 18 to 25-year-olds, when we were first hitting puberty, it was around the late 90s. This is also the time that the internet was invented and started to become main and widespread in homes. Therefore, when we first started to feel horny or had the desire to masturbate, we were able to get linked up with the internet. And so the problem with this is, over time, our horniness and our stimulations had to be linked with pornography habits. And those pornography habits aren't the same as real-life sexual encounter habits. Looking at the pornography habits, we find there's a huge difference. So some of the habits are that people watch them alone. This is the idea that it's just you and your laptop or you and your television. Also, it's the idea of voyeurism, where you are watching others. Also, there's a lot of clicking, there's a lot of searching, there's multiple tabs open so you can see tons of different scenarios. There's also the idea of fast forwarding so you can get to any specific part of a situation. And then the last two are that there's constant novelty, and this is the idea that we can view 100, 200, 300 women in any sitting or any night or any watching of pornography. This is totally different from what our ancestors had, because in their generation, they would see people just in real life, where we were able to go on the internet and see more than we could ever imagine. And the last is the idea of shock and awe. So while pornography is helping to keep men from getting up, it is also helping to keep women down. And this keeping women down is a very bad thing, which leads me to my second point. It is that porn is very patriarchal. And this is basically the idea that pornography depicts women as the same as sexual objects. In recent history, we're looking at porn and the trends. It is, in the recent years, shown that porn has not only become more violent, but also more cruel and degrading in the depiction of women. If you look at the typical sex scene of today's pornography, you will see that it starts with a woman appearing, there being a man who tries to seduce her into a sex act. This one sex act leads into a plethora of sex acts, so many sex acts that none of us in a realistic amount of time can even portray anything close to this. And so the sex acts are always finished with the same thing, and that is the idea of the money shot. And so with this money shot, it's where a man ejaculates on a woman's face, the most possibly degrading thing any person could do to someone else. So this sees women as complete sexual objects, but this money shot is not the only humiliating cruelty towards women. Some common things are this idea of ass to mouth, which is huge in porn. To me, it's just disgusting and shocking, but it's the idea where a woman is penetrated in the anus with anal, and then that penis is then inserted into the woman's mouth, ass to mouth. And most of us would say, well, that's pretty disgusting. No offense to anyone who that's their thing. But in the general trend, I would argue that it is very degrading towards women. Also, the idea of bondage. It can be very similar to rape, where people are tied down. There's some very bad BDSM, or in my views bad, BDSM clips of women who they're just completely strapped down. And this is humiliating. It's ridiculous for how it sees these women as these objects. And then this depiction of women as sexual objects, this is just simply not real. Anyone who's had a real sexual encounter realizes that in the majority of sexual encounters, there's intimacy, there's a discussion, there's difficulties. It's not as smooth as you've seen in these porn videos. You don't just go right in, you don't just finish, and then you don't have the money shot, and then it's over. The money shot's not even that common. Many women don't want to be money shot. It's a very degrading thing. Also, it's not just that women are depicted as sexual objects, but that there's this fetish with the young, the vulnerable, and the injured. You could argue that porn promotes women as powerless, and this can be seen in rape scenes, young or Lolita scenes, and bondage, where women are just at at the power of the men, and they have nothing to be able to do against it, which I just find is absolutely ridiculous and is very degrading towards women. Whereas porn can affect men and it can affect women, I would argue that porn can also affect society as a whole, which leads me to my third point, and that is pornography viewership is very shady and it can lead to some very shady behavior. So let's first look at cheating in a relationship. If I'm in a relationship and I watch porn, am I cheating on my significant other? And it's interesting because porn is typically between amateur and professional. So many would argue that professional porn is not cheating because it's like watching a film and falling in love with Brad Pitt's character on the screen and the realization that the viewer is never going to meet Brad Pitt, therefore it's okay for them to love Brad Pitt. But an amateur, it raises this interesting scenario where it could be a webcam or a leaked photo between a couple that are our age that gets put on the internet that anyone views. Therefore, is that cheating if it makes it more personable? Second, pornography promotes shady behavior because it allows opportunity for pedophiles to spread their unfortunate fetishes. So first, looking at social media, things like Instagram allow individuals to post whatever they want. Therefore, there are underage girls posting very nude and bikini-style pictures that pedophiles are able to view and then promote. Also, looking at Europe, because there's a different age of consent, theirs is underage considered here. So where there it's 16, here it is 18. So when they have pornography with under 18, people here can view it, and in society's eyes, that's pedophilia. Therefore, it creates this opportunity for shady behavior. I've discussed 3 things that I think are bad about porn, for men, women, and society as a whole. But now, what are we gonna do about it? What is it that can be done? So, I have 3 things to promote. The first is that men must take it upon themselves to simply stop watching this porn. You just can't promote it. You can't let it happen. So you can start using memories, thoughts, or maybe having real interaction. But, which leads me to my second option, is what if you're addicted and you just have nothing else to do on a Friday night? Well, then I have an answer. And that is that there has been feminist porn created that started up in the 80s due to feminist movements, which sees men and women in supportive roles, and it's a lot more realistic, and no one is sexually objectified. And for women, what can you do? I've only presented options for men. Well, I would argue it's in the attitude. Women, you must see porn as a threat to you. And this is because it is sexually objectifying you. It is a threat. It's not just a threat to your relationships, but to your integrity and to how society sees you. And a lot of your future can be dependent upon this. So if we see these as threats, what will we see in society that no longer has this threat? Well, I believe society would be a much greater place, where women wouldn't be defined by their sexuality. Also, there'd be elimination of these two-faced men. And I call them two-faced because in public, they say that they love women, they love gender equality, but in their private lives, they're watching these porn that I've been describing to you, and therefore it's degrading towards women. And they just promote one thing in public, and in their private lives, they go about their behaviors. In conclusion, I believe that porn viewership causes more harms than goods. Also, I believe that culture has become pornified, and I don't think this is a very good thing. Lights turned off, door locked, shades turned on and closed, bringing out the tissues, the lotion, and the laptop. This isn't just a situation of masturbation and pornography that I'm describing to you, but also a situation that helps promote inequalities and other problems. And this can greatly affect you. Thank you for your time, and please, don't put this on the internet. Thanks.